You have an unusual idea for a 3D model, but no idea how to realize it? I will show you how to play God. Today we will merge a fish with a rhinoceros to sculpt a horrible yet cute creature. And in doing so, I will show you all the steps you need to get from your first idea to a finished 3D model, whether for a game, for animation, or an awesome 3D artwork. Alright, let's start with a new project by selecting the general template, and by pressing A to select all, then X, we can delete all objects. Let's find the reference image for our creature on Google. I will use the body of a rhino because I have no idea what I will be sculpting. I just know that the creature should be massive. You can find good reference images by typing your keyword and then front or side view. So in my case, rhino side view. So grab a good reference photo and download it. Back in Blender, go into front view, and by pressing Shift A you can add a reference image. Insert it and move it a bit up so that the feet match the x-axis, and decrease the opacity to better see your mesh. We also have to move the image a little to the back so that it does not disturb us during modeling. So go to side view and press G, Y to move it back. Okay, time to create our first mesh. Press Shift A and add a cube. And we will add a subdivision modifier to increase the number of polygons on this cube. Increase the subdivision level by clicking on the arrow to about 5 and apply the modifier. Finally, let's get the mesh in position and start sculpting. Sculpt mode can be overwhelming the first time, but let me give you an abstract overview. I will go more into detail when we use certain tools. On the left side, we have all the brushes Blender has to offer. On the top, there are some brush settings like the radius and the strength, and on the right side there is a tab for all brush and tool settings. Sculpting can be broken down into 3 major steps. First, the blockout phase. On the blockout phase you will be working with a very low resolution mesh. The goal is to roughly form the shape of your model by either using sculpting brushes or adding new meshes. In the second phase you will increase the number of polygons and sculpt the final shape. Even some detail will be done here, but only the ones that define the silhouette of your model. Here is an example of a detail that should be modeled and one that should not be modeled. The detail will be sculpted in the last phase and later baked into the normal map. After the final shape has been sculpted, your model will be retopologized, or in other words, you create a low poly mesh with the shape of your sculpted high poly mesh. And in the last phase, you will add the final details like creases, surface imperfections, and so on. Now that you know how we're going to proceed, let's talk a little bit about some shortcuts and brushes we're going to use in the first phase. When you press F, you can increase or decrease the radius of your brush. Holding down Ctrl changes the brush direction, so in case of the draw brush it creates a cavity instead of raising it. And holding down Shift with any brush you can smooth out your mesh. It's the same as using the smooth brush, the settings are thus taken over. As for the brushes, we will mostly use the draw brush, draw sharp, grab, and snake hook. Okay, enough the theory, let's get on. Let's turn on mirroring for the y-axis, pick the snake hook and start blocking in the upper body. And since I'm not using a reference for the front view, I will just improvise. You can add a reference for the front view, but I don't know how the creature will look like in the end, so I'll leave it out. What I do is simply change between the front, side and top view, move it in shape and smooth it by holding down the Shift key. That's okay for now, let's remesh it. When you drag the vertices, you're destroying the topology piece by piece. This makes it harder to sculpt or can lead to unwanted side effects. This is why you have to retopologize the mesh from time to time. Blender has a built-in remesh function in sculpt mode which works fine in the blockout phase. You can use it to fix your topology and increase the number of polygons for later phases. However, the remesh function can also destroy a sculpt when you have a finer mesh, so use it, but only in the blockout phase. I will show you another method to prevent this problem in the second phase. Let's remesh our model and leave the default settings. And add some legs. So back to layout mode and press Shift A to add a cylinder. Increase the size by pressing S and move it to position pressing G. and by pressing SZ you can scale it in the X-axis. A quick summary, since I don't want to repeat myself and tell you the keys all the time. Each action, like S to scale, G to move or R to rotate, can be used freely or bind it to a specific axis when pressing X, Y or Z afterwards. After you set the position and scale, you will add a mirror modifier, choose the body as a mirror object and select the Y-axis to create the second front leg. Let's duplicate the front legs to create the back legs and fix the position. 3D modeling is moving vertices in place until you have the shape you want. To do so, you have to switch in edit mode by pressing the tab key. You can now select vertices, edges or faces based by the mode you selected. Holding down Ctrl when you click will select a whole loop. You can move, rotate and scale your selection the same way you do with your mesh with S, G and R. When you need additional vertices, you can create an edge loop by pressing Ctrl R and hovering the mesh with your mouse. Using the mouse wheel, you can control the number of edge loops you want to create. With this power of knowledge, let's create an edge loop on the back legs and move it to define the shape. And the same for the front legs. To save time sculpting, you can already refine the mesh a little bit. It is often much easier to do this in edit mode than in sculpt mode. When you need additional vertices, feel free to add additional loop cuts. And when you're done, shift-click both pair of legs and press Ctrl J to merge them, and apply the mirror modifier. Now we want to merge our legs with the body, and we will use an awesome free add-on for this. There are many free add-ons that make your marriage with Blender much easier. One of these add-ons is called Bool Tool. You can install add-ons by going to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons and type in the name. When you find it, click the check mark to install it. To use the Bool Tool, you must press N, go to Edit and expand the Bool Tool tab. After installing the Bool Tool, we will use our two objects and use the union function in order to merge them and getting rid of the vertices in between. And back in sculpt mode, use the remesh function to create a nice topology for sculpting. Now I will use the grab brush to continue the blockout phase. Try to shape the body as you want using the brushes I talked about earlier in the video. And take your time. You have to get used to all the brushes, when to use them, when to smooth, when to remesh and so on. Practice makes perfect. There are many ways to reach the same goal. You just have to try out different things and see what works and what not. So your first task now is to finish the rough sculpt with a low resolution. Feel free to pause the video and get to work on your model. Or watch the next 20 seconds of time-lapse where I finish my rough sculpt. This is the moment you stop. Let's inspect what I did here. The silhouette gives you a rough idea of what this is supposed to represent. The silhouette is an important part in art, because the human eye does not analyze all the details but the overall shape. You can see that it is a large animal that is very powerful, but from its curves it looks peaceful. We will make it horrifying by adding some spikes and refining the shape later. And that's it for the first step. In the next part we will increase the resolution and continue to go more into detail. I would be very interested to know what your rough shape looks like. I've created a Google Drive folder, which you can find in the description. Just take a screenshot and upload it. See you in the next part.